I know I look great for my age. I got a lot of people tell me.
Cheers.
Yes. Go Bills. Go. You know this weekend, if the Bills and the Patriots win.
Bills and the Patriots win.
They both win. Then the Bills play the Ravens in the next round.
That
would be great.
That would be ideal.
That would be great.
There you go.
That would be great. I think the Bills probably won't win, but it's okay.
I was going to say, you think they got a good second chance?
No.
Me either. I feel like that's the game that I kind of want to see.
Yeah.
But we will see. Well, I guess I should have done the sound thing. We'll figure it out. A little bit closer. Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like, because sometimes it feels like it's literally just in your face.
Yeah, I know about this. This we used to tell people, hold it like an ice cream cone, and then we'd say to the ladies, if you got lipstick on it, that's fine, and to the dudes, if they got lipstick on it, it wasn't fine.
All right, I guess we'll start with the intro. I may mess up your last name, but we're here with Brandon Fazzolari.
Fazzolari.
I practiced this so much.
Yeah, today. I bet. It sounds like it.
But as soon as I started the intro, I was like, oh no, I forgot.
In high school, my gym teacher, Coach Jackson, he always called me Fazzolari. And I was always like disappointed in him as an educator that he would place the L so early in the name when it comes so late. Oh, he was a gym teacher.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like the most gym teacher thing. We'd never learned any Coach first Jackson. Names, but knew everyone by last name.
Exactly, Tom Jackson. I love that guy.
AKA,
yeah,
one of my favorite nicknames of yours, Dr. Superbowl.
Yeah, it's technically it's not a nickname. It's a persona.
It's a persona.
It's a lifestyle. And my first time I was ever called Dr. Superbowl, I was on the air for 107.7 FM in Buffalo with Jim Brinson, who, it's a shout out. He's still working in radio.
Shout out Jim Brinson.
Yeah, but he was a big time announcer for a while in Buffalo anyway. He'd have me on every so often for history segments, and he started calling me Dr. Superbowl, and I liked it.
So it's still, that's actually a really cool way to get a nickname.
Yeah.
That's actually really good.
Yeah.
So do you think that I thought it was actually pretty interesting that they went Dr. Super Bowl, not Mr. Super Bowl?
And I have to correct folks on that sometimes because I didn't go through 8 years
of Super Bowl
watching
Super Bowl
Super Bowls to be called Mr.
You've seen every Super Bowl though.
Well, every Super Bowl since Super Bowl 16, some of them were played before I was born.
Yeah.
I've rewatched as many as I can, on YouTube and things. There's a couple of Super Bowls that they just don't, like Super Bowl II, they just don't have much footage.
Yeah, so it's like there wasn't just enough of a constant recording of the game.
Exactly, gotcha. And CBS taped over it.
Really?
They were like, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah. Now look at you. Now look at you.
Now look at it.
100 years later.
Well, yeah, 50.
Is that when the second Super Bowl was?
Yeah, exactly. I was.
Because there was like the AFC, NFC, or whatever it was.
So
right?
the first Super Bowl is January 15th, 1967, and then the conferences, the leagues, AFL and NFL, merged in 1970. So at the end of that 1970 season was Super Bowl V. So since then, AFC champion versus NFC champion. And it's been a wild ride.
It's been a wild ride. You're from Buffalo. Just tell me a little bit.
West Seneca, New York.
I'm sorry?
West Seneca, New York. It's a suburb of Buffalo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My name, Fazzolari. That means Her mustache is thicker than yours.
Ooh,
yeah,
spicy.
Not really. I just made that up.
It's a family tradition.
I think it means beanery. Actually, somebody told me, but
Really?
but I like. I used to do this bit about my last name, and how like I did all this research on the Ancestry.com, and I found through my studies that it was her mustache is thicker than yours, because there's a lot of Italian women with thick mustaches. Anyway, I was from Buffalo, New York. It's a great sports town. With the Bills and the Sabres. So and there's a lot of winter days where you literally cannot do anything because you're
snowed in.
Yeah, snowed in. So I learned how to read from the Buffalo newspaper sports section. So all the sports writers back in the early 80s, like Larry Felger and Jerry Sullivan and Mark Gaughan, and some of these people you probably don't recognize their names, but Buffalo sports people would recognize these names. So I learned how to read from reading their articles about the Bills, and the Bills at the time were pretty good. They had Joe Ferguson and Joe Cribbs and Frank Lewis and Jerry Butler. They're a competitive football team.
Yeah.
Not the great like Super Bowl era teams, but anyway, I got hooked on football.
They were competing.
They were good. They were a competitive team. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And that's how you learned how to read.
I learned how to read through the sports section in the Buffalo newspaper.
Nice. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Would you say that's like your earliest memory of sports, or?
Yeah. My earliest memory of sports is the 1981 playoffs, NFL playoffs. Was if you have 1 to 2 minutes, I'll tell you about.
No, yeah, I mean, this is your show, bud.
Okay. So listen, the 1981 playoffs. I love thinking about these games because there were so many great games. This was during the 70s. I'll just give you a little backstory. It was all Steelers, Raiders, Dolphins, Cowboys, Vikings, and Rams. They were like the 6 dominant teams, and then everybody else. So coming into the 80s, all of a sudden, we had Joe Montana and the 49ers just emerge. They were really good. And then the Redskins came, were born or whatever. So at 81 season, this 49ers team was like, who are they? Where do they come from, And in the 81 playoffs, they had some of the greatest football games of all time. The wild card game where the Bills beat the Jets 31-27. They were winning 24-0. The Jets came pouring it back, but the Bills won. In the divisional round, you had the epic game, San Diego Chargers against Miami Dolphins in the Orange Bowl. Again, the Chargers got up 24-0. The Dolphins came back. They had this hook and lateral play that Tony Nathan scored on. Look it up. Amazing play. But the Chargers survived. Kellen Winslow played the spectacular game. And then the NFC Championship game that year was when the 49ers beat the Cowboys on the Dwight Clark catch. So I don't know if you remember that. They call it the catch.
Yeah. Oh, the in the back of the end zone.
Yes.
That one. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
So all that happened in one playoff season. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, this is awesome.
Too much. Yeah, this is just this is love for football right
awesome.
here.
And meanwhile, in hockey, you had the Islanders who were just winning all these Stanley Cups. And basketball, it was Larry Bird, Magic Johnson going at it. And it was just
the 80s were a great time.
Great
for
era.
sports.
Yeah, great era. And I love those 3 sports to this day.
Yeah. Do you what is your favorite sport? Do you have a favorite sport?
Oh yeah, football.
Yeah.
NFL football.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
For sure.
Holy Lord. Like I'm Dr. Superbowl. But I do love basketball and hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, I love
it's just not the same love.
Yeah, not the same love. Yeah.
I feel that wholeheartedly. Yeah. I love watching hockey. I was a Blackhawks fan before the Knights, and still kind of hold on to that sort of love for that Chicago team. But you know, obviously this being like the first like homegrown sport in a or homegrown team, watching the Knights was a fun time.
God,
but
it's great.
Hockey season does not start until the end of football season. You know.
Yeah, dude, I love it. I was first introduced to the Blackhawks when they had a goaltender named Murray Bannerman. Now, this is probably a little before your time, but he wore a cool white mask, and they had a guy called Dennis Savard, and what a skater he would, some of these French guys, amazing. But those are my earliest Blackhawks memories.
Do you have like an earliest memory per team?
Yeah. Oh, I have memories. I have memories for every sports team. Yeah, including baseball. Even though I'm not passionate about baseball, but I study it because during the summer there's
nothing else to do. It's always like the worst kind of like time of year where you're sitting at a bar and then you're just like, man, like this is it. Like we're just watching these two baseball games. Like,
but I respect the sport.
Yeah,
and I respect the intricacies of strategy. I think it's the best. I think there's two things about baseball I love: the strategy involved in late inning managing situations. I think is very interesting.
I've never even thought about that before. Especially
in the National League where the pitchers still hit. Very compelling. And then the second thing I love are the statistics. It's such a great, exercise for your brain when it comes to numbers. Figuring out batting averages and earned run averages and strikeout percentage and on base percentage and those things just
you're a big
for somebody
guy.
Like a obsessive compulsive like me, it's like
that's a field day.
I don't even have to watch baseball. I can just read about it.
Yeah.
And it fascinates me.
I think this is like the first year where I've really been in tune to a lot of stats, like as far as just like not even from game to game, but kind of throughout the season and everything like that. I feel like this year I've been like the most connected. I've been watching football since like 2004. So this is like the first year where I'm like, this guy's like rushing. I was like, but this guy is playing so great. And he's only playing half the snap, So,
well, so if you're wearing all those Ravens clothes, I would think this would be the most invested you'd be in a season too.
Oh yeah,
this is the best they've ever been.
Oh yes, it's pretty crazy. Coming into this season, like the way the last game of the Ravens playoffs last year, that game against San Diego was such a heartbreaking game because it was such like a Cinderella story at the end, and then that playoff game, which does not start at all how you want it to.
Sure.
And I think coming into this year, I was kind of like, it's gonna be a good year. I don't know how good, and then as it went, I was like, this is for real.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's insane. It's honestly it's crazy.
Because the 2012 team that won the Super Bowl, they started their 10-3. They're a pretty good football team, and then down the stretch they kind of
they
kind of crudted it out, and they finished I think third or fourth in seeding. So they were actually had to go to Denver, and then had to go to New England just to make it to the Super Bowl. And then I thought for sure San Francisco was going to win. I'm just telling you from a prediction.
Oh yeah.
But that was good. But this year's team has been better from day one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've never seen a Ravens unit play like this.
Oh goodness.
Like in sync, and it's just every play where you're like they need to make a play. A play happens, or something happens where you're just like, all right, well that they're legit.
There's some. I'll tell you just real quick what I think is great about. Obviously, the running game is incomparable because of the quarterbacking, but their tight ends are excellent.
Oh yeah.
I mean Andrews and Hurst and these guys, and then on defense when they trade it for Peters, it's like now they're top three defense.
It was the steal of the century because even during that time with the whole trade deadline, Jalen Ramsey was a big name, and like in my head I'm just kind of like that's the big name,
overrated.
And now that trade happens where we send the number one pick to the Rams in trade for Marcus Peters. Like in hindsight, that was a lot for, and then for Tavon Young.
Oh man! And then you got Thomas, who's a Hall of Famer, and Humphrey's an excellent player. Yeah. So they're scary good.
Oh yeah. And that's actually one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you here today was to talk about this upcoming playoffs.
Great. Thank you for having me.
No. But I just want to, just because I want to kind of touch on this and then kind of get into who you are and what what you're about. But I just want to get this out of the way, so because I want to hear.
Nobody knows.
I was gonna end with this, but I feel like I want to hear way more of your stories. So
sure, whatever you mean.
What are your predictions for this upcoming playoffs, coming from the wild card to the next round and then the division and so on?
Sure, good. You got it. So this week I think I think we're going to see 3 road teams win.
Oh, really?
The only home team I like is the Saints to beat the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Saints are the most complete NFC team. They're peaking at the right time.
Yeah.
Since they laid that egg against the Falcons, they've been very good. Very good. And their defense is underrated. Lots of strengths all across the board. I think Lattimore is one of the best corners in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Good defensive line. Great offensive line. People forget about their O-line. Kamara is fantastic.
They protect Breeze.
Breeze has a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Cook is a great tight end. It was a great pickup. Thomas is the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
Sorry, Julio, but I can't guard Mike. So they're loaded. And Minnesota it was just a bad break that they have to play New Orleans because they're a good football team too. I really think they're better than the Packers, but Cook was injured in that Monday night game.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do anything on offense.
Oh, man.
And Cousins is not the kind of guy that carries a team.
Yeah. He needs the weapons around him for sure.
Yeah, so I like the Saints this week. But the other 3 games, I like the road team. I think the Bills are going to win in Houston. I think the Titans are going to win at New England. And I think the Seahawks will beat Philly. They just did it like a month and a half ago.
Yeah. I don't think Philly's that strong of a team this year around.
So many injuries.
Yeah.
So many injuries. And Pete Carroll's a great coach, and Russell Wilson's a great quarterback. One thing about the Seattle Seahawks, you never kill them. They're always alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever seen them get blown out? I don't think. Every time
they're keeping it close.
They lose. They lose games,
but they're keeping it close.
So they're just too deep. For Philly. So then we go to the next round. And that's where Baltimore and Kansas City are going to win.
Yeah.
I would be stunned. I would be absolutely stunned if Tennessee could beat Baltimore and if Buffalo could beat Kansas City. It could happen, I suppose, but they're the 2 best teams in the AFC.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to kind of envision that, especially. The Ravens haven't played the Titans, so that's kind of a game that's like up in the air, but. At the same time, I feel like it was the same sort of feeling where Houston came in, where Buffalo came in. And everyone's like, "Oh, this is the team that can really, can beat them." And then this is the team. Oh, they beat them. Well, this is the new challenge. And I feel like that it'll be the same sort of rehashing when Tennessee comes up, where it's like, "Oh, well, this is the team that's gonna challenge Baltimore." And it's like, I don't think the Titans are gonna be the challenger.
The Titans are not good enough on their defensive line to handle that running game.
Oh, yeah.
They have some talent, no doubt about it. And they have some of the best defensive backs in the league, but they're not going to be able to hang with Baltimore. In the NFC, I think you'll see San Francisco survive Seattle again.
Yeah.
They've had 2 tremendous games this year, and so I would just love to see them play again.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think New Orleans could go into Green Bay and win that game. I don't mean to disrespect Green Bay because I know Rodgers is obviously fantastic.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is a great player. And defensively, they've significantly improved. I think that New Orleans is more complete.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think New Orleans will go into Green Bay and win. But the other 3 games, I like the home team. So then that gets us to the championship game. You got New Orleans at San Francisco.
That's going to be a great game.
At Kansas City at Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine 2 better championship games?
Yeah. I feel like, especially coming out of the NFC, I feel like a lot of the NFC teams have just been so great and been putting on good games. That or they completely just drop the ball and it's a goose egg of a game. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of those teams have been playing some great football and they've had great seasons. And, whoever kind of comes out of that NFC for the Super Bowl team, it's going to be a good one and they're going to be tried for sure.
This is a game where San Francisco only has a chance because they're going to have the home field.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they had to go back into New Orleans again and beat them twice in 1 year at that stadium, especially after last year's championship game when the Saints got kind of it was a bad call against the non-call against the Rams. So
that was tough to watch.
Oh,
that was tough to watch.
Anyway, I think I like the Saints in the NFC and the Ravens in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think the Ravens have just a little too much depth for Kansas City. Although Kansas City has been playing better defensively, they're not able to run the ball, putting everything on Mahomes.
Yeah.
Everything.
And I think if they force him into that sort of position, because I don't think he's 100% healthy right now.
It doesn't look like
to the caliber that we've seen Mahomes play.
Yeah.
I think if they can really shut down the run, the Ravens have had trouble setting the edge with a lot of the run game in the last couple weeks. So it's setting that edge, and if they could really just shut down that run game, or even get the game kind of out of hand to run the ball, to kind of have that like threat of the run versus the pass, and then it just goes to Mahomes. I feel like they can play some great defense, because at that point, he's going to try to stay in the pocket. Yeah. His scrambling is going to be limited, so it's going to be a little bit of an easier game if it was a completely healthy Mahomes.
I agree. Yeah. So, and then the first time they played was in Kansas City. Baltimore gave them everything they got. It's one of their only 2 losses. So if we go to the Super Bowl now, and it is the Ravens and the Saints, that's where I'm not going to pick yet, because I still have to.
You still got to process that.
Have to process if it actually happens too, because I'm not exactly going undefeated. There's going to be games I get wrong.
Yeah,
like
that just happens.
Like every year.
Yeah, like every year.
Like I had no idea the Patriots were going to win the Super Bowl last year. Like they were kind of cruddy for most of the season.
Yeah,
but they won in Kansas City. That shocked me, and then. The Rams, they shut them down. It was the new look Patriots. This is more of the Patriots team we've seen this year, where they were better defensively.
Yeah. What did you think of the Super Bowl last year?
Well, I love defense, so I didn't hate the game.
Yeah.
I thought Gronkowski was incredible. Edelman was excellent. And the Rams, the moment was too big for them.
Yeah.
So those were my observations. They were totally outcoached.
Oh yeah. Especially coming with Belichick, like if there's any coach that really thrives in that big game pressure, it's definitely Belichick. Like it's just, like that man knows how to win a big game.
I will tell you this as Dr. Super Bowl though, there are 2 Super Bowls in my mind where Belichick was outcoached. Okay, and I don't know if the Patriots were necessarily outplayed. But they were outcoached. And the first one would be the Giants game, where the Patriots were undefeated going into the game.
Ooh, okay.
And I don't think Belichick coached a very good football game. Here's an example. It was the middle third quarter. The Patriots were leading the game 7-3, and they had a 4th and 13 on the 32. And a young kicker called Steven Gostkowski, I believe he was in his second season. And they didn't kick the field goal. They didn't even attempt to kick the field goal. Perfect conditions, it was Glendale, Arizona.
Yeah.
And they,
in the dome, like
a dome. I don't think they shut the roof, if I remember right. But in any event, it was perfect conditions, and he went for it on 4th and 13 from the 32. Really? And of course they went for Jabbar Gaffney. It was incompletion. And I think if it was 10-3 instead of 7-3, at the end of the game, when the Giants were driving down trying to do something, the score would have been 17-10 New England. So their touchdown would have just tied it.
Yeah.
And sent it to overtime. So I always think about... No, I don't always think about it.
Yeah, but like when it comes up, it's just that thought.
I don't always think about
it.
I don't always think about that.
You're like on late night, third quarter.
I like Red Lobster, too. I like think about shrimp,
I
think about different shrimp combos, So like,
what's your favorite type of shrimp combo?
I like when they have the coconut shrimp with they have this like parrot sauce. The other Super Bowl that Belichick definitely got outcoached, and here I'm not alone on this one. Everybody agrees with me, I think, was when they lost to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Coach Peterson kind of taught us all a lesson on how to beat the Patriots, and that to just go for it. Like don't back down, don't take don't punt.
Yeah,
go for it. Take trick plays. Do everything.
You got to win the game. They are not going to let you win the game.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that was a very entertaining Super Bowl.
The coaching in that game, and that's why I never count the Eagles out. I don't think they're going to win because they have too many injuries, especially at wide receiver. But I never count them out because he's so good, Coach Peterson. I saw him play for the Eagles up in Buffalo in 1999, and he got benched, and they brought in this rookie quarterback out of Syracuse named Donovan McNabb. It's a true story. This is week 3 of the 99 season. Look it up. And Buffalo won that game 26-0.
See, this is why I wanted to get the playoff prediction out early, because I just want to hear more of these stories.
That's a true story.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Donovan McNabb.
His first ever appearance in an NFL football game was in Buffalo, and a shutout loss. He came in for Doug Peterson, who's now the coach of the Eagles.
Wow.
Yeah. 99 season is one of those seasons that I think about a lot because the Bills it was like their last really good football team. Because at quarterback was Doug Flutie. I don't know if you remember him. He was just a little guy. And he spent a lot of years in Canadian Football League. So he was like beloved in Western New York. Because like, I don't know if you know geography, but we're like right on the Canadian border, you know? So like Flutie, when he came to Buffalo, was like idolized and loved and adored. And frankly, in 99, he wasn't even that good. 98, he was really good.
Yeah.
In 99, he was okay. Yeah. He wasn't that great, though. So we kind of have revisionist history with him in Buffalo. So by the last game of the regular season, it was a meaningless game. The Bills had already locked into their spot.
Yeah.
And so they didn't play anybody. They played this quarterback named Rob Johnson, who was a Southern Cal Trojan, and who they had signed in 98 for big money. You know, he was supposed to be the starter.
Yeah.
But Flutie was so good, and Johnson would get sacked a ton.
Yeah.
And he'd always getting hurt. So they were like, well, let's stick with Flutie.
Yeah.
So anyway, this last game of this regular season, 99, they play Rob Johnson, and he's amazing. You know, like he's lights out.
Yeah.
And so Coach Wade Phillips, says for the going into the playoffs, we're going to start Rob Johnson.
Wow.
Instead of Flutie. And people in Buffalo were like in an uproar, you know. And I was like, well, this is great because he's actually good.
Yeah.
You know, because he played so good against the Colts, and Flutie was kind of inconsistent. We had a really good team. And the Bills had a really good team in 99 because they still had Bruce Smith, who was still good. And they had number 3 defense in the entire NFL. Sam Cowart was a great linebacker out of Florida State. They had really good defensive backs. Mm-hmm. And they still had Andre Reed. They had Eric Moulds. They had Antoine Smith. They had Thurman Thomas. So this is a loaded team. Mm-hmm. But we got a bad draw in the first round. We had to go to Tennessee. And the Titans were very good, too. They were 13-3 that year. Yeah. They had Steve McNair and Eddie George.
Great combo.
Oh, great. One of the toughest teams. Like physically and mentally tough football teams was the late 90s Titans with Coach Jeff Fisher. So anyway, it was probably the worst possible scenario for Rob Johnson because he got sacked a lot, and then they were known for their sacking, like because they had this rookie defensive end called Javon Curse, and they even called him the Freak, you know. So Curse would be like in the backfield every play, and even caused a safety. But they were down 12-0 at halftime, Buffalo. And in the second half, all of a sudden, Johnson hits Moulds for a big play. Antoine Smith runs for a big play. And it's 13-12 Buffalo.
Yeah.
So then Tennessee took the lead 15-13. Then Buffalo got the lead back 16-15 with 20 seconds left. So Rob Johnson, the much maligned Rob Johnson, actually led the Bills to victory at Tennessee until, and this is the only time this has happened in the history of the NFL, the Titans returned the kickoff to win the game. Do you remember that? The Music City Miracle, it was called.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Is that game?
Yeah, that was that game. So they lateraled and ran it back for a touchdown. And I was devastated because I thought for sure the 99 Bills were such a good team. Uh-huh. Anyway, the Titans made it to the Super Bowl, and they lost by 1 yard to the Rams.
Yeah, that was the who was that? Who was the receiver on that?
Dyson. Play? Kevin Dyson was the receiver for Tennessee. He was tackled by a linebacker named Mike Jones, the worst name ever. But the Rams won.
Not a big Houston Rat fan, Mike Jones.
I like names that are memorable.
Mike Jones is the most generic name. I will give you that one.
That's what I mean. So
and you know what? I felt like you actually struggled to be like, what's that guy's name? Oh, Mike Jones, of course. It's too easy.
So the Rams won their Super Bowl, and I was happy about that because I like Coach Vermeil and I like Kurt Warner and
also just a little sweet revenge from
Marshall Faulk. But I often think that the Bills, if they would have survived that game against the Titans, could have won the Super Bowl that year. But anyway, that's 20 years ago.
Still think about it.
The worst thing for me as a Buffalonian that year was the Sabres lost in the Stanley Cup that year. I don't know if you're like remember hockey as well as I do, but the 19
I don't think anyone remembers hockey as well as you do. Let's be honest.
Okay, the 1999 Stanley Cup, where the Sabres were in it, and it's the only time in my life that the Sabres have made the finals. Like in '75, I was in my mom's stomach for that final.
For that one. We missed that one.
Yeah, but I put that on Twitter once. I said I was in my mom's stomach, and some guy corrected me, and he's like, "You were in her uterus," and I wrote back that I'm from New York.
I'm from New York.
Whatever that means. So anyway, I was in my mom's uterus for the '75 final, so I that doesn't count.
Did they win that year?
No, they lost, of course. They've never won the cup.
Oh, they've never won.
The Sabres have never won the cup, and the Bills have never won the Super Bowl.
That was going to be my next question. Just a lot of heartbreak in Buffalo.
So anyway, the '99 Stanley Cup Finals were taking on the Dallas Stars, and twice in that decade, the Dallas Cowboys have beaten the Bills in the Super Bowl. So it's like, not Dallas. They don't need this.
Yeah.
They don't need a hockey champion. Who even cares about hockey in Texas?
It's a very good point. I don't think I've ever seen a Dallas fan in Dallas.
So anyway, the game went to 6 games, and the Sabres, in a total, I'm trying to think back now. There was 1, 2, 3, 4 overtime periods.
Really?
6 games, 3, 18, 22 periods. The Sabres scored a total of 9 goals. That's not going to do it, you know. They just couldn't score. They were just totally dependent on their great goaltending of Dominic Hasek. And
can only do so much.
Yeah, Dallas is just a little better, and they had a Hall of Fame goalie named Ed Belfour. So it was, but they lost Game 6 in triple overtime, and we were up to like 1 in them because back east the games go 1, 2 more.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh,
that would have been the most miserable too, because it's so late, and then I imagine you're just like, you're exhausted by the end of it. You're like, yeah, I'm good.
Well, especially in hockey, those triple and quadruple overtime games, it's like you start getting really numb to the fact that if somebody scores, they win because it's been so long since there's been a score. You start forgetting, like this is still
we're still just watching. Like,
like
someone has to win.
Yeah, like the first few minutes of like last year, the Knights lost Game 6 in double overtime.
Yeah, immediately.
But like
right? They came out and scored like right at the beginning of the second, right?
No. We must be talking about 2 different games. This was the Game 6 against the Sharks. The Knights, if they won that game, they would have gone on to the second round. Yeah. But they lost at home 2-1. And they had like 60 shots but San Jose won it in the double overtime. But anyway, you can even feel in a situation like that, the first couple minutes of each period, there's a lot of energy in the building. But then by the mid, people can't sustain that kind of energy.
Yeah.
And then it's hard
to keep
then it's just like...
Yeah, you're just watching.
I went to a game in Buffalo in 1994 where the Sabres were playing the Devils, and it was also Game 6 of a playoff series. And it went on till the 4th overtime. I was there, and it was at the old Buffalo Memorial Auditorium. Buffalo people remember. And Dave Hannon got the goal.
What time was it?
It was like 2 something in the morning, Ooh. I was a senior in high school. And then they lost Game 7 anyway, so it was all for nothing.
Oh, there really is a lot. That's going to be the title of this episode. A lot of heartbreak in Buffalo.
Now, we've had some good times. When, like I told you off air, was when they beat the Houston Oilers in the night, and now we're coming on Wild Card Weekend here, so I'll tell you that was the greatest Wild Card game.
Houston, nonetheless,
against Houston,
wow,
that was the greatest Wild Card game in the history of NFL football. That game, and I was there, 17 years old, And after the game was over, I was screaming at people like, "We're going to Pasadena! We're going to Pasadena!" You know, because I was crazy when I was 17.
Yeah. Still are.
Not as bad.
Would you say that's your fondest sports memory?
My fondest sports memory would have been 2 years earlier. Would have been the first time Buffalo qualified for the Super Bowl. I was 15, and the Bills beat the Raiders 51-3. My boy Andre Reed and Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas, James Lofton had 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Davis had 3 touchdowns. Darryl Talley had 2 interceptions and a pick 6. Ooh. And the reason it was such a blowout is because the week before, the Raiders lost Bo Jackson to what turned out to be a career-ending hip injury. So obviously, if he played, it would have been a little.
Yeah,
it might have been 51-4. but it was such a great day, you know, that we were actually going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
you know. And then a couple of years ago, the Bills got in the playoffs because the Ravens lost the last game of the year to Cincinnati.
I almost cried that day.
Yeah, that was
a
shocker.
Day. Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, it was a huge day for Bills sports fans because it's like they hadn't been to the playoffs since '99. So it was like, even though we were really a marginally good team that year, we were barely good, but they made it to the playoffs.
It was still powerful. You know, it was funny. I remember that day because on my lunch break, I worked at the outlets over here, the North Outlets, which has a cheesecake factory, right? So I took my break knowing like this would be like towards the end of the game.
Time,
so I was like, hey, I'm gonna take my break. They're like, this is the weirdest time ever to take your. I'm like, I know, trust me, I gotta go. So I would catch the last, little bit of the game.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so like drained, just watching the Bills game, and I was just like, oh man. And then I went home that day, and then I was watching the Ravens game, and I was like, "Wow, this is what real heartbreak is like."
Oh yeah.
And funny enough, it was the first time I ever met my wife's best friend, and I was just in the worst mood ever, like meeting her for the first time.
I had that happen the day of the Music City Miracle. I had to go to somebody's wedding, and I was mad, and my wife was yelling at me, "Why don't you cheer up?"
If I could have stayed
home, I'm not in the mood right now.
I'm just tired. All right.
Oh, great.
Oh man.
Yeah. So those are my fondest. That was my fondest memory. That was. I wasn't at that game though. That 51-3 game. I watched it on TV, but I think the best game not one of the great games I've been to. Was the 4th time the Bills made the Super Bowl in a row. Was against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs had Joe Montana.
Ooh,
so that was kind of cool, to see.
Oh, he's good beating like a great quarterback.
Oh, he was fantastic, but the Bills knocked him around real good that day. Knocked him out actually with a concussion.
Ooh, really?
But I got on TV on NBC, waving up the 4 fingers.
Is that picture that I saw with your mustache?
Yes,
I saw that. Yeah. Yes, I was going through your Facebook today, so I was looking at some real gems.
18. Yep.
Nice.
I was on the. That was our 4th. That was the Bills' 4th straight Super Bowl, and that was cool because the trainer for the team for the Bills was a guy called Ed Abramowski, and he had been a trainer. This was January '94. He had been a trainer with the team since 1960. His daughter was my cousin, and so I called her that week. I was like, "Hey, any chance I can get some tickets?" And we had great seats. Like me and my buddy went, and like we were sitting at the 50-yard line with like the players' wives and stuff, and like we were right by the press box. And the play-by-play guy for the Bills is a guy called John Murphy. Okay, and back then he was just the analyst. Van Miller's the play-by-play guy. But anyway, he's doing play-by-play. But he was up in the broadcast booth, and I looked up to him and I said to him, "Hey, is Metzelaars going to play today?" The tight end was Pete Metzelaars, and he was kind of gimpy, and Murph just said, "He's out there warming up," So that's my one of my recollections with John Murphy. The other, I was doing an internship at 97 Rock when I was I was in my senior year of college, and like I thought I would I thought I would do an internship with the Bills station, and anyway, I told him,
man, you just really you got after it.
Yeah,
huh?
I told him. I told John Murphy. I was like, "Oh, I really like you. You're the best." All that. And he was like, "Thank you."
He's like, "I'm just an analyst, kid."
Yeah. He's just an analyst, but he loves it. He loves the Bills, though.
Yeah,
he's a homer. If you ever listen to him announce Bills games,
he's a homer.
A homer. Like when you're like. When you can tell when the announcer's cheering for the home team.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
So they'll be like, touchdown, Buffalo.
Like real, like genuine excitement.
Yeah, genuine joy.
You're like, yes, that's what I would sound like if I could do commentary. That's awesome.
I love it. I'm trying. I this week, I sent my first application to the Raiders, so I'd love when they move here to get a job with them, in some capacity, any capacity, just to be in football, where I belong.
With my people. That's awesome. Yeah, you told me right before we started recording, you got season tickets to the Raiders.
Yeah. Should be great.
And it just really goes to show, like me, I'm a very I love football. But most importantly, I love the Ravens.
Oh yeah,
So I think it's great that like you are a diehard Bills fan.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you are just a real lover of
the NFL.
Football. Yeah.
Because that's one thing. Sometimes I get criticized by the Bills Mafia because I'm very objective.
Oh yeah,
very objective. I'm not like Mr. Bills. Yeah, rah Bills. Mm-hmm. I love the Bills. They're my favorite team. That's who I grew up with.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, I just love the Bills so much and I want to hug them all. I like every team.
Yeah.
There's not one of the 32 teams where I hate that team. They're so bad. Because every team has good fans and every team has bad fans. You know what I mean? It's not like our fans are the greatest and their fans are the most annoying. I've been into so many games in so many cities.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. I'm sure you can find some Bills fans that you're just like, hey. I love your passion, but you got to tone it down.
Well, no, I will. I do commend the ones that like swear at me and stuff. I do always commend them for their passion. I always say, man, keep that passion.
Yeah.
Maybe you can use it like in a more mature way. Yeah. But whatever. But anyway, this year I went down to Phoenix and saw the Cardinals play. Mm-hmm. I went out to Los Angeles, saw the Chargers play.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it. I saw you in a Chargers jersey.
Yeah, Chuck Muncie.
Yep, exactly.
Love old. He did enough cocaine that there's hardly any left in Los Angeles.
But it's funny that it was a Chargers jersey that made me think of this because not that I struggle with this thought, but. Big fan of LaDainian Tomlinson. Well, I started watching football in 2004, so
sure.
That's
his peak.
Yeah, so like it was just one of those things where LT was one of the best running backs ever. He was. And there's just something about those powder blue San Diego jerseys, and I was like, I've always wanted one of those jerseys, and it would have to be LT.
That's the greatest jersey in NFL history to me, the powder blue. But I don't see LaDainian Tomlinson in it. I'm going to name people you probably don't know.
I was like, whatever you're about to say.
I see Lance Allworth, and I see John Hadel, and Keith Lincoln, and Paul Lowe, and I see the Chargers that won the 1963 AFL Championship wearing those powder blues.
That's awesome. See, this is what I love. This is great. I might just go buy that jersey now. Yeah. I just might.
Do it. I have a huge jersey collection, as you probably know. Like the Bills, I have the most. I have Josh Allen. I have Ed Oliver. I have the Sandra Reed. But I also have like 12 or 13 other teams, and tons of Golden Knights stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I wear.
So... sorry, I just wanted to check time. Outside of sports, you do comedy. You're a comedian in some capacity. You gotta admit,
in a very small capacity.
But that's actually how I met you.
Yeah.
We did the underwear show together, and I remember meeting you, and I was like, I've never met this guy. And then I saw you go up there, and you were talking about football, and I was like, wow, this guy's really like going for it, and then like
I really went for it.
Yeah, I was like, well, he's really doing jokes about sports right now.
Yeah.
And then you went into like material that was not about sports, and I was like, oh well, like he has real chops on him.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm
genuinely funny. Legitimately funny.
What got you into it? What made you think comedy?
Yeah.
Well,
I'll be honest with you right now. I very rarely do comedy. Mm-hmm. When I do comedy, it's usually at work to my coworkers. So it's not. I'm not passionate about it. I'll be honest with you. Mm-hmm. It's not. I'm not like. I'm not driven with ambition.
Yeah.
My first thing is football and sports. But I like to be funny. I always been kind of funny. When I was a kid, though, going to West Seneca East Senior High, I put together a comedy show called The Brannies, based on like the Grammys.
Yeah.
And I just gave out awards to kids at school for random things, and I had like 400 people there. And like I opened with like a monologue, kind of like Jay Leno would have done at the time, and I did jokes and and made people laugh, and I did the sprinkler and the blender and all these dumb impressions of local Buffalo sports announcers, and I liked being on stage. I thought it was fun and all that. I did that, and I thought a few years ago when I was here in Vegas, I thought, well, I'll try doing it a few more times, just because I have nothing else to do. So I did it, But I'd rather talk about football, though.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
I have good jokes about football.
Yeah, I've heard them. Well, then we'll get back to the football, but I want to say one of my favorite jokes of yours is the Kings of Leon meow.
Oh yeah.
I think it was so like that's something that I'm sure everyone does. Like I do cat sounds to like songs, and it was the same thing. But then, sure enough, I saw you do it, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Everybody has their cat Kings of Leon joke. I had to have a twist on it.
Everyone has their cats. Kings of Leon.
Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Yeah, that's a good joke.
I hear that every time I hear that song. And I'm a big Kings of Leon fan, so I hear it a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't know how you feel, but I think it is such a talent to write a clean set, with no dirty jokes, no swearing.
I've never done it, so
yeah, so okay. So, I actually try to do that. I actually say that I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a clean set. I'm just going to write clean jokes. I'm not going to curse. I'm not going to, and I'm not offended. Don't get me wrong. I'm not offended when other comics do it. It's just not my thing. It's not my thing. But because if you go on like regular TV, when I was a kid, you couldn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You different times for sure.
Yeah, you had to go. Anyway, I think it's such a talent. So like I was thinking, this Kings of Leon thing is pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. And then I was doing like The Godfather underwater or Forrest Gump underwater. I don't know if I ever showed you that. Mm-mm. It's like I gotta get some saliva.
I gotta get some saliva.
It was like a lot was like a box of talk. So it sounds like you're talking underwater anyway. So anyway, I was writing all these dumb jokes in it. But ultimately, I said, "Gee, I want to talk about football." So that's when I started saying. When I was in England, and the guy told me that, this is. I says, "I'm Brandon from New York," and he's like, "I'm Bruce from Wisconsin. I don't do sports." He said, and I said, "Really? You're from Wisconsin? You don't do sports like the Badgers and the Bucks and the Brewers and the Packers? And he's like, "Didn't Aaron Rodgers get injured? Does that mean he can't play ever again?" He said that to me, and I was like, "No, he can play again, But anyway, I said,
"It'll just be a couple weeks.
It'll just be a couple weeks injury." And so anyway, I told him all about in Super Bowl I, which was played on January 15th, 1967, that the Packers beat the Chiefs in Super Bowl I at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum 35-10 after they had defeated the Dallas Cowboys at the Cotton Bowl 34-27. When they beat the Chiefs, they got 2 touchdowns from Max McGee, 2 touchdowns from Elijah Pitts, and a 13-yard touchdown run from Jim Taylor, giving the Packers the first Super Bowl title. So that's kind of, I was like, I don't even want to be funny anymore. I'm just going to spit out facts. Yeah. And that's when I started my selfie series. And so like what I would do is like, I'd be like, I would lift the thing up because I'm kind of, because of my head's kind of circular. But if you do it like this, your head's not as circular. I don't know if you knew this. So you could say like, so you can't, and I don't know if you know this, Twitter video limit is 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, 2 minutes 20.
2 minutes 20 seconds. So I had to figure out how can I talk about a sporting event in just 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So I did a series. I started with like 54 greatest playoff games of all time. Yeah. This year's Super Bowl 54, right? Yeah. And then I did 27 champions in 27 days, which was 27 last college football champions. And then I did like 40 Kentucky Derbies in 40.
I saw that. I wanted to ask you about that.
and then I did 40 World Series in 40 days. And so I thought, this is really fun, and people start liking me and following me on Twitter.
Yeah. And here you are.
Yeah, right.
Dr. Super Bowl. But that's awesome. No, I think like the fact that you even incorporated like what really got me was the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, like because I had seen like all the football ones, like of course anything football, and then I've seen all the other sports ones. But then I think like as deep a cut as the Kentucky Derby, I was like, this is a bit, like this is like this is something that you like. I feel like you were like, how like what sport should I do next? Should I do golf? And you're like, Kentucky Derby. Yeah. I just imagine some clip on ESPN being on, and you're like, oh, I could do that.
I had a lady say, one of my Facebook people, and she's like, I could tell you know a lot about horse racing. Could you pick a Breeders' Cup Classic to talk about? Now, I don't know how much into horse racing you are, but...
I am very interested to learn now. So,
so like the Kentucky Derby, of course, everybody... can kind of identify that that's a big sporting event because the first Saturday of May, it's usually...
Is it always the first Saturday?
It's always the first Saturday of May.
First Saturday of May is in a roll. I don't be like, Brandon.
It's 20 colts. Typically, it's just colts. They're always 3 years old. Mm-hmm. They only get one chance to run it.
Oh, really? Right?
Where the Breeders' Cup, those are the end of the year world champions, world championships. So like horses ship in from all across the world. Wow. They could be 3 years old, but they're 4 or 5 usually. They're usually older.
They've had some experience.
Yeah, have some experience. A lot of times it's called the handicap division because they'll rate the race weight of the horse will be a little different depending on experience and stuff like that. But anyway, the Breeders' Cup Classic, she asks, tell me about the Breeders' Cup Classic. So I was like, I think I could name every Breeders' Cup Classic champion in order in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So I said, I'll do a video of that. So I said, like, so see if I can do it. I might not be able to because I'm way out of practice right now.
You're good. But I could probably. Did you like write them all down and then like just kind of memorize it, or it's like when you?
No, most of them I know.
It's just all the top of my head.
Okay. Some of them I have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Like even like somebody said, tell me all the NFL MVPs ever.
Oh, I did that to you the last show that we were on together. I was like, I made some joke about you, like, imagine waking up to that and then it's just like, Joe Montana threw this one. And then I was like, he probably knows every MVP. Yeah. And I was like,
and I did, but somebody's like, because I did every Super Bowl MVP in 2 minutes, and the guy's like, somebody wrote to me, it's like, well, whatever. But I bet, like, not I bet, but like, I think, I'd be really impressed. That's what he said. I'd be really impressed if you could do every league MVP. And so I did. But that I didn't know what it was. I had to study that, and then I could do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I am. I don't have like this I don't have what they call photographic memory.
Yeah.
Everything I do is a lot of work.
Yeah.
and memorization skills. But what I learned from a very young age, the key to obtaining a good memory is as soon as you learn something to tell somebody else. So that, like, when I learn something, I post it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as soon as because if I let it, if I don't share it immediately, I'll forget it.
Yeah.
Like I did every first round draft pick since 1970. I've done, all these things. So, but it had to, like, I can name the entire 1980 Bills roster by jersey number, but not right now. Do you know what I mean? Like I have to sit down, study it.
Yeah.
And then it'll all click, I know most of it. I know, like, number 5 was punter Greg Cater. Number 7 was the kicker Nick McMeyer. I know number 12 was quarterback Joe Ferguson. Number 20 was running back Joe Cribbs.
Oh, like you're doing it in numerical order?
Numerical order. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. So it takes a lot, but it's a lot of fun. It's rewarding to me because it's what I can do well. If you're like good at something, it makes you feel better about yourself if you do it. If you don't do it and you just think about all the things you're bad at, that's gonna ruin your life.
Yeah, that's gonna be a bad day. That's gonna be a bad day. Oh man.
Yeah, so she's like, tell me all the Breeders' Cup Classic champions. So I was like, 1984, Wild again. 1985, Proud Truth. 1986, Skywalker. 1987, Ferdinand. 1988, Ali Sheba. 1989, Sunday Silence. 1990, Unbridled. 1991, Black Tie Affair.
That's the worst horse name.
Front running win. It was in Churchill Downs under Jerry Bailey. 1992 was a horse I love called AP Indy, and he just had a great running style. Like he looked like a halfback because he put his head down. Like some horses they look so gallant,
like majestic.
Yeah,
running.
and then this guy, he's like, I loved watching him. Oh, let's see, where were we? Yeah, no matter. You don't care, but yes, I love horse racing too. Yeah, this would be my 5th favorite sport, I guess.
Behind
football's 1, basketball 2, hockey, baseball, horse racing. Yeah,
would be 6.
That's tough. Now we're getting deep. Yeah, I don't know if I like anything else. Maybe
you're like I barely like horse racing.
No, I like horse racing. Those 5 I like.
Yeah. Everything else is just
everything. I like watching the Olympics. Track and field. Yeah. I like watching World Cup soccer.
Yeah, the Summer Olympics. The only time I watch soccer is during the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, other than that, it's just nothing I want to see there.
But like I'll sit down and watch every single NFL game for the entire season. Every season since 1981, I've seen every game.
Really,
every game I could.
Yeah,
because back in the 80s, you get 2 or 3 games.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like now you can watch every game. You can record every game.
So do you actually go back and watch game by game?
Games, yeah.
Wow.
Because they have condensed game packages.
Oh, so they kind of show you that's so true.
No,
it's kind of like when they're showing they cut
the commercials.
Yeah,
they cut the commercials and they cut the replay, so you can watch a full game in 30 minutes.
Really?
So that so you have. It costs you like $70 a year to have it, but if you're like me and you want to see every game and be able to talk about every game, because a lot of these analysts don't see every game.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're like, they'll come on and they'll be like, oh, I think Stephon Gilmore is better than Tre'Davious White or whatever, and they've never seen Tre'Davious White play. They've just seen every Patriots game. So, well, maybe if you watch some Bills game, you'd see that they're just as good as something like that. I'm not saying that that's definitive. I'm just saying I don't.
He makes a great case.
I just don't like the analysts that just start making lists and they haven't actually seen all these people play. I've seen every Tampa game this year. I've seen every Baltimore game this year. I've seen every Tennessee game, every single game that every single team has played. So like I feel like of the people that do this, I know I'm in that tier of people that actually knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Plus, I like to give the historical twist to the narrative. Like, oh, this year, this is the best Ravens team we've ever seen. This team is better than the 2012 team that won the Super Bowl, and offensively, they're miles better than the 2000 Ravens that won the Super Bowl, who were all defense. With Ray Lewis.
Oh yeah. I mean, Trent Dilfer wasn't putting up the crazy numbers.
Trent Dilfer. He was an improvement over. You know who he replaced? After week 5, Tony Banks was the guy.
Tony Banks.
Yeah, and he was so bad that they didn't score a touchdown in 3 straight games. In a year they won the Super Bowl, they went 3 games without scoring a touchdown.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
That's crazy to think for a Super Bowl team.
Yeah. Well, they were, like I said, they were all defense.
Yeah, all defense. I imagine back in those times, a really strong defense could really just shut down games.
Oh, I mean, that Super Bowl was horrible. The Giants, I don't know if they crossed the 50, maybe once.
Yeah.
I did a drive chart, a tweet where I did their drive chart in that game, and it was like a punt, interception, punt, fumble. Their only touchdown was on a kickoff return. That tells you what kind of day they had on offense.
Yeah. When the special team shows up and they're like, hey guys, someone's got to do something.
Well, this is what happened in that Super Bowl, the Ravens-Giants Super Bowl. The score was 10-0 Ravens. The touchdown up to that point was a Trent Dilfer to Brandon Stokely touchdown.
Oh.
So anyways, 10-0. Third quarter. And the Ravens got an interception return for a touchdown. So it was 17-0. Mm-hmm. The Giants returned the kickoff, made it 17-7. The Ravens returned the next kickoff, made it 24-7. So in this game,
there's 3 back-to-back scores.
3 back-to-back on 3 consecutive plays. There was 3 touchdowns in a game that had only 41 total points.
Wow.
There was 21 of the points within 1 minute. It was kind of cool. Kind of cool stat from an otherwise horrible game.
You're like, that's the only redeeming factor.
Yeah, because it was between 2 great Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Like 34 was the one we talked about before, where the Rams beat the Titans on the 1, and 36 was the first one that the Patriots won, where they beat the Rams on the last play of the game on a field goal by Vinatieri. So, sandwiched between those 2 classics is this awful game.
That stinker. That was actually the first thing that I learned about the Ravens when I started watching them in 2004. Just because I'd actually picked them up just one day watching Sunday football.
Yeah,
just coming through the channels, never watched it, and I was like, there's a Ravens game that was on, and I don't even remember the outcome of that game, but I remember that the Ravens were playing, and I was like, that's my team. And then I immediately went and looked back, and I was like, oh, cool, they won the Super Bowl in 2000.
Yeah. Interesting. I've never been a huge Ravens fan, but I respect the product because they had, in my opinion, one of the greatest football players ever to play the game, called Ed Reed.
Ooh.
The best safety I've ever seen.
It's the first jersey I ever got.
Oh my God. And a lot of people will say Ronnie Lott, and I respect that because Ronnie Lott was great against the run, and he was a great hitter. It was his era. The 80s was Ronnie Lott's era to be a great player, because back then you could actually hit people and not get fined or penalized.
or ejected.
But what he couldn't do, that Ed Reed could do, was cover the entire field. I have never seen a guy with such range and coverage ability than Ed Reed. He's the greatest, one of the 5 greatest defensive players, period, I've ever seen.
It was I feel like I was always spoiled watching defenses.
Oh,
because just growing, especially in 2004, where it was just such a great team, and then just throughout that year, or throughout the next couple of years, where it was just all defenses.
Sure,
with Ray Lewis. There was never a great offense.
Ray Lewis, the best inside linebacker I've ever seen.
Well, that Suggs was still an up and comer.
Yeah.
Who was playing? Chris McAllister was never really that great, but it was just like these players that I was just like, these guys were larger than life.
T-Sizzle. Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
And now Kansas City Chief. But yeah, and then
in fact, I did my top 10 greatest players of all time list.
Really?
Would you like to hear it?
Yeah. Do you still remember it?
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
My number 1 greatest player of all time is Jerry Rice, wide receiver, 49ers. Did you ever get to watch him play?
I did not.
So he played.
Of course, I've seen.
Interestingly,
countless.
He played from 85 to 03.
Really?
Yeah.
So right before.
Yeah, so he was fantastic, and he just his records were so high when he retired. Larry's coming up on him. I don't know. I don't know if Larry will ever get there, but Rice is the greatest. And then I have Brady second, quarterback, New England. You might have heard of him.
Number 12, some might say.
And number 3, I have Lawrence Taylor, linebacker from the Giants, another guy from the 80s who was just changed the game. Yeah. He changed the game. And in fact, he was league MVP in 1986. Linebackers winning league MVP?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Has there ever been another linebacker that has won MVP?
That's a great question. What do you think?
I don't think so. Or yeah, I'm gonna say no, because I feel like I just looked at it, and I could be totally wrong on this, but I feel like I just looked at it because I wanted to see when if a wide receiver had ever win. Is it
Lawrence Taylor's the only one?
Yeah. Yeah. See, Dr. MVP over here.
Now, 1971, the MVP was a nose tackle or defensive tackle named Alan Page for the Vikings.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's rare for a defensive player to get the kind of accolades that
a quarterback
almost always gets it. Yeah. So anyway, my number 4 greatest player of all time is Jim Brown, was running back from 57 to 65 for the Cleveland Browns. My number 5 is Barry Sanders, also running back, played for the Lions. Believe he played from 89 to 2000, something like that.
He played that late, huh?
Yeah. Huh. I believe that's the case, or maybe 89 to 98. Mm-hmm. But I know he retired prematurely.
Yeah.
Then my number 6 player of all time was a quarterback called Peyton Manning.
Good choice.
I love that guy. And my number 7 player of all time, another quarterback, Joe Montana. My number 8 player of all time is Ed Reed. My number 9 is Deion Sanders.
Okay.
Best corner I ever seen. And number 10, Deacon Jones, which is a defensive lineman from the 50s and 60s. Yeah. So that's my top 10 greatest players of all time.
You said you're more of a defense guy, huh?
Oh, I love defense.
Yeah.
I love defense. I don't think that when I was growing up in the 80s and stuff, the defensive football is so much more entertaining than it is now, because you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I agree the rule changes had to take place, because you don't want kids to get their heads knocked, and never be able to talk or utter a sentence, that's part of the game I don't like. Yeah. But like when it was happening and I was a little boy watching these kids knock each other's brains out, pretty fun.
Loved it.
Watching Lawrence Taylor and Ronnie Lott, oh my God, they're so great.
I feel like I share that same appreciation for defensive football.
Like,
Like I guess great watching Baltimore football. I've never really seen too much offense until like these last couple of years. Yeah. But I've watched a lot of defense. I love reading defenses. Love seeing how plays develop. How each player really like reads the ball, goes after the ball, or how plays there. But when it's like that defense time, like offense, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm watching. I'm excited. Defense comes on field, I'm like, let's shut it down. Let's see like what looks are coming out.
Yeah, like, defense is much more. Defense is much more of a coached based thing too nowadays. Where offense, if you have the right athletes like a Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson or even Josh Allen for Buffalo, you can overcome bad offensive coaching.
Yeah.
If you have talent.
Yeah.
It's hard to overcome bad defensive coaching. You have to have the right scheme per opponent.
Yeah.
And, that's probably where Belichick is why he's thrived, is because he understands defensive concepts better than a lot of other people. And well, your guy, Dean Pease, he's doing a great job too.
Oh, yeah. His whole coaching staff.
Leslie Frazier, my guy.
Let's see. Okay, cool. I'm doing good on time. What's your least favorite football moment?
My least favorite memory. Oh, that was it's the Music City Miracle. Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you that. Boy, that was a bad day. I was at work. I was working. It was I believe it was the Saturday early game, which is where the Bills are slotted this week as well, and it's interesting because later that day, Detroit played Washington. And Washington won 28-0. There's some insight for you. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was at work, which I hated. I was doing technical support for Windows 98.
You try getting that day off?
Probably. That part I don't remember. But anyway, we had TVs all over, and all of Buffalo's watching it, so it didn't matter. Like
the game's gonna be on.
So I wasn't gonna miss it. So I was at work, and they made the field goal to go up 16-15, and I called my mother, and I was like, I can't believe they're gonna do it. They're gonna win. This is awesome. Who would have thought the Bills were gonna go into 13-3 Tennessee and beat them? Excellent. And then as I'm talking to my mother, they're running back the kickoff. She's like, oh no. Poor Brandon. Oh, and anyway, the other thing I was going to tell you was that when the Bills lost their first Super Bowl, the Giants, was January of 1991. So I was just a kid.
Yeah.
15 years old, and they missed the field goal on the last play of the game. Scott Norwood, wide right, 47-yarder. So if you ever want to look up Super Bowl 25, there's a game I pretty much have memorized from the opening kickoff. To be honest with it, yeah.
So yeah, the fact that you were like, wide right, 47 yards, I was like, wow.
Yeah. Well, everybody in Buffalo knows that part. But what they probably don't know about that game is how many tackles the Bills missed.
The
Giants
that'll kill anything.
Oh yeah, the Giants were so good on third down conversions in that game, and these weren't superstar players for the Giants offense. Mm-hmm. They were good on defense because first of all they were coached by Parcells and Belichick. Ooh. Then they had Lawrence Taylor, they had Carl Banks, they had Gary Reasons, they had Pepper Johnson, Leonard Marshall. Jim Marshall was an old Vikings player. Leonard Marshall, Jim Burt. And so they were stacked, and they didn't have Jim Burt anymore. I'm sorry. He moved on. I'm thinking of the 86 Giants. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the 1990 Giants were tough on defense. Excellent defensive backs, too. A lot of people probably forget they had they had Terry Jackson and Everson Walls and Sean Gale and Raina Thompson. So they were just loaded on defense, Kennard, and but they weren't on offense.
Yeah,
they were not a very good offense. They didn't even have their starting quarterback. They didn't have their starting running back.
Really?
Yeah. So Buffalo should have handled that offense, and they could not get off the field. They couldn't stop these third downs, and it was just Hostetler hitting tight ends like Howard Cross tight end. You ever hear of him? No. Right. I don't think anybody heard of him. Dave Meggett was kind of a good kick returner, and he was kind of a third down scat back. I think he's had some child molestation issues since football, if I'm right. But anyway, back then he was a good third down back. So anyway, these guys were not superstars, and they were breaking the Bills' tackles on these third downs. You look it up. I mean, the Giants had an incredible third down percentage, and so they went on these long drives, and it was in Tampa.
Yeah.
So it was humid, and these Bills defenders were just starting to get exhausted.
Yeah.
Like guys like Darryl Talley, Cornelius Bennett, Mark Kelso. I never seen so many missed tackles. And that's what frustrates me, because it never should have come down to a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they should have stopped them.
Yeah.
Got off the field and let their explosive offense, you know, do damage. But anyway, those would be disappointments. I think in baseball, I had disappointment because being from Buffalo, I also like the Toronto Blue Jays. It's just north of Buffalo is Toronto. So 1985 American League Championship Series, the Blue Jays were winning the series 3-1 over Kansas City. And the Blue Jays were a better team.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays were, especially in the outfield, they had Jesse Barfield, Lloyd Mosby, and George Bell in left field. Their infield was solid. Willie Upshaw was a good first baseman. And they had some good, strong starting pitching with Dave Steeb, especially. But they also had Doyle Alexander and Jimmy Key. So they were a really good team. And then Kansas City barely won their division. I don't even think they won 90 games in the regular season. And then the Blue Jays were up 3-1. And they lost the series. And it was the first season where baseball in the league championship series switched to a best of 7.
Really?
So before then it was best of 5. Now Toronto was up 3-1, so they would have won the series.
You think they just played to that, and then like the next one they're like, I don't think we got it, guys.
But a funny thing happened in the World Series that year. Kansas City fell behind the St. Louis Cardinals 3-1 and came back and won that series.
Wow.
So it was, somebody once said it was destiny.
Well, man, I appreciate it. I've learned so much.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite announcers, sports announcers?
Sports announcers. I don't think I do. Though I do love when Brian Billick.
Oh, Billick,
yeah. I think every time I see him, he's always been really good, good on commentary.
Yeah,
just a very well-spoken person. I've always enjoyed seeing him. Yeah, but no.
So I'll end with this story about my favorite announcer. There's this.
Well, hey, how about this? Because I actually want to get one more question out of you. So I'm gonna actually just pause this, switch this over, and then we'll go into that one. All right,
okay, you got it.
1 second. Favorite announcing story?
Yes. So Joe Buck announces a lot of the big games now for football and baseball.
Yeah.
So he'll do the Super Bowl this year with Troy Aikman, and he does a lot of he does every World Series for the last 20 years, I think. So, but his father was a great announcer out of St. Louis. He did the Cardinals baseball game, did a lot of Cardinals football games when they were the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah. And anyway, he also would do national radio. Okay, so when I was a kid in the 80s, I had a little Walkman, right? And my father usually would send me to bed at early. So on Monday Night Football, I'd never get to see the whole game because it kicked off at 9 o'clock Eastern, and then it was school night.
Yeah.
So by 10:30, I'd be in bed. But I would get my Walkman out, and I'd listen to Jack Buck and Hank Stram announce Monday Night Football on the radio, and it was so great. But he also did baseball, and
Joe Buck really does do a lot.
Yeah, but this is his dad.
Yeah. But Jack. I was just even thinking, yeah.
So Jack Buck was announcing the 1988 World Series between the Dodgers and the Oakland A's. Okay, and Game 1 is the game where Kirk Gibson hit a home run in the bottom of the 9th off Dennis Eckersley to win it for the Dodgers. Okay, the A's were fantastic. They were heavily favored to win this series.
Yeah.
Okay, so after Jose Canseco hit a grand slam home run, they were winning 4-2. The Dodgers got a run 6th or 7th, cut it to 4-3. So we go to the 9th, and then Eckersley walks a guy. And hardly walked anybody that season. And so Gibson comes up, and it's time for him to. And he was injured, right? He was injured. This was his only at-bat in the World Series. And he hits a home run. And the announcer on TV. It was Vin Scully, who was the Dodgers regular announcer, and he did a great job. Of course, he said, in the year of the improbable, the impossible happened, which is kind of a cool line. But the radio broadcast, which is on YouTube, was Jack Buck, and when Gibson hit the home run, he goes, "Unbelievable! I don't believe what I just saw. I don't believe what I just saw." And his partner was Bill White, who was a longtime Yankees analyst, and he says to him, he goes, Am I seeing what this is really happening? You know, and the actual joy of what he just witnessed, and the shock and the surprise. It'll stay with me forever as a guy who loves sports broadcasting. Yeah. So that was to me, that was the best call of anything sports related.
That's awesome.
Jack Buck, yeah. I don't believe what I just saw. You know, the genuine joy and shock. God, I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great story.
There's I feel like you find a lot of joy in kind of not the mundane parts, but the parts that no one really thinks of when it comes to sports, right? I feel like you genuinely love those aspects of the game, and I think that's it's unique. Oh, you don't see it.
Oh man, I get so excited over broadcasters, statistics, venues. You know, I love the different stadiums. You know.
Oh, I recently went to the Coliseum. Yeah, it was beautiful.
It's amazing.
You know, it was one of those things that like I was there and I was like, I was there to watch the Rams lose to the Ravens, but
what a game that was!
Oh, I was excited. But, you know, just seeing the Coliseum, you're like, wow. And then, like, we were, like, right in front of the torch. Yeah. Right? And I was like, this is really amazing. Happening. It really I was there. Like, I need a picture right now.
I've been to two games there.
Yeah. But,
then you could watch you know what I like watching on YouTube, too, is the 1984 Olympics. Oh. Summer Olympics was in Los Angeles, you know. So there's some great shots at the Coliseum there. Like I said, it had Super Bowl 1 and 7 there. It's a lot of history. And then USC football.
Yeah. A lot of history.
Fight on, Trojans.
Well, my last question was what's not next? But I mean, you know, what are you, like, what's your
future? I plan on living another year.
But I mean, like, your love for sports is great. Like what you've done, like your online content and your Dr. Superbowl, you know, character that you call it. Like, it's great. It's a lot of fun, and I feel like you know, a lot of people enjoy it, and like
dozens of people love it.
But even today, like I said, I came in really wanting this to be like a playoff sort of episode, and then halfway through, I was like, no, there's way better stories. Oh, than this, you know. Yeah. So I just want to know, like, do you have any like plans for, you know, what you want to do next, or, you know, just even like some like content ideas?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to give everything away, but you know.
I mean, I'll be on a lot of podcasts this month. I mean, this is my month to do this because this is when
this is the breadwinner.
Yeah, this is when people really want to learn about football history and playoff history and sports history, and so I'll do a lot of that. I write an article every week for the Pro Football Guru. So you can read my articles. I post them every week. You know, like last week I wrote about all the quarterbacks drafted in 2012, like Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin, and because Griffin played for the Ravens this week, Russell Wilson, Nick Foles, Kirk Cousins, Brock Osweiler.
Great. Interesting class.
Interesting class, to say the least. The Browns drafted a guy called Brandon Weeden.
Oh, I remember that guy.
Out of Oklahoma State, who was 28 when they drafted him.
Really?
And he was out of football quick. I mean, he was lousy professional quarterback. And then the other one I was thinking of was Tannehill, who has had kind of a resurgence.
Yeah.
Surprisingly resurgent season. So anyway, I was just looking back. I was thinking, man, what a fascinating 8 quarterbacks drafted in one season. By the way, it was 9. There was a guy called Ryan Lindley who actually started a playoff game for for the 2014 Cardinals, and he was dreadful. But the only reason he played because Palmer got hurt, and then Stanton got hurt. So Lindley came in that game, and that was in Carolina. And I think that was the year the Panthers won the division at 7-8-1, and the Cardinals still couldn't beat them. but anyway, I write articles one a week for the Pro Football Guru.
I'll have to ask you for the links for all your stuff, so then we can put it on the episode as well.
Yeah,
but that's awesome.
Yeah, right. So I don't know what the future holds, but I hope I can hook on with the Raiders. I hope they'll give me a shot at something. Ticket sales, entertainer,
something, anything.
Yeah, cheerleader, mascot.
Oh, speaking of cheerleading, the videos of you dancing.
Yes.
Great dance moves.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Great dance moves.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the one where you were in Buffalo for the game.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that, and I was like, he's getting it.
Yeah.
He's getting it for sure.
Yeah.
And then same thing, you outside. I'm like, this man's gifted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's those dances are great. I'll have to get a new one out there because I haven't done one in a while, Yeah, they let people like that stuff. Well, what really started me with this dancing bit actually was I work at Zappos. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like...
I didn't know that, but
yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
work at Zappos, and like the typical Zappos employee is what they call a millennial, And I don't fit in that category anymore, but I try. So the dancing just, is just a way for me to like fit in.
Yeah.
With the new generation. I colored my hair too.
Just to fit in. I'm sure they appreciate the effort.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for all this. It was fun. I love talking about football.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to share? Post your social media, everything?
I'm at @spot_Bills.
I tried to find you on Twitter, and I was like... @spot_Bills. That's where you're going to get most of my content. I don't do a lot on Facebook because a lot of my friends don't care about sports. So it's like, why don't they? So Twitter, they're not my friends. They're just followers. So they just want to know about sports.
Yeah. So if you're really interested in sports content, I try to post unique stuff.
Yeah.
I try and make it interesting.
Hey, you told me every Kentucky Derby winner.
Yeah, I try to do every Kentucky Derby winner. Including my favorite Kentucky Derby, 2009, when Mind That Bird won the Kentucky Derby.
Mind That Bird?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this.
Thanks,
Thank you again for agreeing to do this. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to do it.
All right.
Hear these stories, brother. Thank you so much, brother.
Oh, we're going to shake hands?
Yes. Oh. Cool. Didn't break any glass. But no, thank you. And thank you for being on the show. I'll let you know when it is. So I'm going to have you share this, all this fun stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And definitely, like I said, we'll throw your articles on there and everything like that.
Awesome.
And then we'll get you on before the Super Bowl as well.
Yes.
Again.
The Super Bowl shuffle. We're not here looking for trouble. We're just here to do the Super Bowl shuffle.